Welcome everyone to another episode of Aging in Action, and I'm very happy to be with my co-host, but as well our guest today is Gary Kader, and Gary is from Timmins, and we're going to talk about retirement and some of the things that maybe you weren't expecting, Gary, and now how many years have you been retired?
It'll be going on 3.
Yeah. So I think a lot of us eventually want to retire. I don't know, they're really going to have a hard time getting me to retire, but anyway, I might be forced someday, but there's lots to consider when you are thinking of retiring. You know, abruptly retiring is not a good thing. You should be starting to think about it. And what are some of the things, Gary, that you weren't prepared for in your retirement?
Well, one of the things, again, thanks for having me for this session. The thing I thought about is, there's a question, and you talk to a lot of people and they say, living the dream, right?
Yeah.
So that dream, that day has come. And in one of my thoughts is, so what do you do now? Okay. And you can plan, you can think and meditate all you want before that retirement day. But when the day actually comes and you're sitting in your house or your apartment or whatever, and you're going, what am I going to do now? Again, I associate with my financial planner. A lot of people who retire, their wives are still working and the other person is retired. A lot of them, they like to travel. Okay, that lifestyle that they live. All of a sudden, you don't have that paycheck every 2 weeks or whatever, and now you have one, which is what like I have. So the thing I thought about was, what am I going to do with myself? Okay, my wife she's busy. We have grandchildren. She babysits the grandchildren. So what is Gary going to do? Am I going to go to the coffee shop every day? Am I going to meet up with some guys and say, hey, Gary, we'll get together. We're going to do this. Well, I'm going to tell you something. It doesn't happen that way. Okay. It doesn't happen. So you really have to mentally try to say, what am I going to do with this time that I'm 7 days, 24/7, 365 days? What am I going to do? And if you, on the mental aspect, if you sit at home and just look at the walls, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it. So getting involved with stuff like what I'm doing with you, Gwen, and that, it motivates me. It gives me something, and you have to have that, because I
was just going to say, Gary, the way we ended up meeting, I had written an article about optimism and how to be optimistic in a negative world, and you reached out to me, and I was happy that somebody actually read the article.
I read it.
Gwen?
Come on, Gwen.
Give us credit.
Well,
it's a struggle, isn't it, to be optimistic? Yeah.
The thing I like too is I read the newspapers from Thunder Bay to Sudbury to Sault Ste. Marie, Timmins, and when I came across your article, Gwen, and it got me, because I said, I can relate to this, right? And I can have a story for you. I can, because what I want, even through this session here, even though this is based on me, okay, and the people that could be me, you got to understand that there's some people out there saying, hey, you know what? I'm like him. He's absolutely right. I do this, I do that. I don't do this, I don't do that. So that's why I'm here. That's why I just want to share it out to you. And then, like I said, for people like yourself, well, you're still working, good for you. I mean, if that's what you love to do, then that's it. And you also got to look at the jobs that people do. And if you notice that CEOs, they're in their 70s, even early 80s sometimes. Look at the job they have. Whereas you have a person who's hands-on, like a mechanic, okay? A guy who works at underground all his life. When you retire, that's it. You're not going back to that. It's not like, I won't say it. An office job is fine, okay? And you can do that. But when you get the physical stuff, your body starts to slow down. And I worked in an environment for 40 years where it was tough because of the conditions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Gary, I kind of find myself actually listening to you and finding myself feeling familiar. I know for myself, I retired, everyone has these goals. Like you say, you meet with your financial planner and you're like, freedom 55. It used to be freedom 50. And I think it's going to end up being freedom 60 for many and 65 in the future. But that milestone came around and, you do the numbers and you're like, yeah, I can do it. I actually hated it. I know that it'll come back for me, but 6 weeks in, I did not enjoy the retirement. But all my friends and my peers are still working.
Right.
So it was okay, like you say, to spend time with the grandchildren and do things, those quality moments as they were there. Then the fall came, like you say, the windows of 4 doors, and okay, what are you going to do with your time at that point? And I think you're absolutely correct. You need to have an outside interest, so I found something else to do in the meantime. I'm active in a lot of different things, but I didn't really enjoy it, even though I thought I was prepared for it. And but it was almost like losing something I loved because I had been working since I was 15.
Right.
I didn't know any different. I didn't know how not to set the alarm clock and get out. It was, you almost had to reinvent yourself a little bit.
Well, the thing that I found, Joy, was that the first month and a half for me, so 6 weeks or so,
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do. I have ADHD, and I had to do something. I can't just sit in a chair. This is not bad, by the way, but no, to do something. Okay. And there's people. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, Gary, so do you think you felt this way because your wife wasn't retired? Do you think it would have been different if it would have been both of you starting a new journey?
No, my wife hasn't been working for several years, so she was always at home. It was just the fact that me personally, like my wife and I, we do things always together, but it's the fact of now all my friends are either they're younger than me and they're working, or they've moved on. Okay, so you're alone, and I'm not. You're alone because the guy that you used to go coffee with doesn't want to go anymore. The couple that you went out for dinner, oh, we can't afford it. We can't go. Okay, so those things really hit me because it was like a wall. And I said, what am I going to do with myself? So I did find something. And I think I mentioned to Gwen, I started my own health and safety consulting business. Okay. Nice. And I do that not 24/7. I do it when I feel like doing it. If I get a call, fine. If I don't, doesn't matter. It's just given me, and I prepared myself 3 years before I retired. So I knew what my plan was. But the fact of the matter is, if you don't do anything mentally, you're going to be in trouble. I'm telling you, because said about getting up in the morning. I used to get up every day in the morning. I worked Monday to Friday. I had a good job, and then go home, eat dinner, watch TV, go to bed. Right? Weekend comes, but you can't wait for the weekend because the weekend is your time off. Well, now every day is a weekend for me.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But
I was just going to say, Gary, too, that your work, the people that you work with, that's another family in a way, because you sometimes see your work colleagues more than your family. You've got that set of hours that you're interacting with those people, and then you come home and there's this little window where you got to interact with your family, and it's very short actually, that by the time you go to bed again and start the day. So it's kind of, you're almost like a divorce from your work family.
And one of the things that I also mentioned is I worked with somebody for 40 years. We did the same routine. You eat in the lunchroom, you do this, you have coffee together, blah, blah, blah. Honestly and truly, do I really want to have coffee with those people now after I've, like you're talking about family? Because they have their families too, right? They have their family. So when you call them up and say, can you go for coffee? I can't make it today, Gary. And I wouldn't say it's excuses, but they have their own time now.
Yeah.
And you feel like, am I intruding, or, and it's hard. But mind you, now I am over that hump, and I'm over it. I plan my day every day. I have I have a diary with sticky notes. I plan it. Sometimes I overload myself and I get exhausted mentally. Okay. But I see you laughing there, but it's true. It's, you have to day.
Yeah.
Okay. I look at the weather a lot too.
I think in the
Yeah.
perfect world, it would be wonderful to be able to work, you know, a couple days a week, find something or volunteer, something where you feel like you're contributing to
Mhm.
society, or you're, you know, it could be a Walmart greeter, whatever works for you, right? But you're
Yeah.
doing something, being active. And I think that's the part. I think for me, I'll never be fully retired. I think I'll always have that, you know, comfort of knowing that I can maybe be aging in action a couple of days a week, or, you know, Home Hospice North, or whatever volunteer program we're doing with Dragonfly. But I think you, like you said, it's finding what brings you comfort and value and making sure you get up every day.
And the thing too, Joy, that you have to remember is you can do what you want when you want and how you want.
Mhm.
And again, if I wanted to be a greeter or whatever, what if I don't feel like being a greeter today? I just don't feel like it. I'm an outdoors person and my sanctuary is in the woods. That's my time. But as you age, it's not nice to go out by yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
And that,
Right.
because, you know, nowadays anything can happen, right? And the other thing, you know, back to the retirement question, I'm finding it a little difficult. Like, I'm okay financially, but I'm finding it difficult with the recession and everything that we're in right now. I've got a bucket list to go on trips. I ain't gonna go into Toronto and go into that squabble that they had with all their luggage and all that. I'm not. I'll tell you that I'm not going to put myself in that position. And there's things I want to do, but I find we're limited. And I say we're limited because unless you want $48 million, okay, fine. Then you can do what you want. But
Yeah.
I don't. I have a certain amount and I'm living off that the same way as I was living before.
A budget.
Things, but I'd like to enjoy more, but it's so expensive.
Mhm.
What a time. And I'm going to tell you, with your financial planner, there's no way any financial planner could predict this predicament. No way. Okay. So we have to learn, how do we control it? How do I control it? And we're doing fine. We're doing very good. Okay. My health is good. Everything's good. But when you read the news, and I think I mentioned this to Gwen, you got to get off that news, because the news is just, to me, garbage. I don't even watch a full forecast of the news. I can't, because it's just the same old, same old, same old. There's nothing ever positive in news. It's always negative.
Yeah.
And that's what brings you down with this mental health issue related to retirement, because all you do is just watch the news. You know,
I agree with that.
yeah. You
Limit
gotta stay
yourself to 10 minutes once a week and check the weather on your phone, and that's it.
exactly.
Because it is depressing. And I know my mother sits and watches way too much news, and I find sometimes it affects her, where I have to say, you just got to shut it off, watch a movie or something instead, right?
Well,
It's scary.
we watch the news, my wife and I, from 9 o'clock till 10 o'clock, and we don't watch the whole forecast, because we watch the national, and it's the same old, and
Yeah.
I told my, what's happening with us in this world, it's terrible. The other thing that I'm thinking about is, and I heard this from an individual a couple of days ago, you need 2 incomes for the young kids to survive today. Okay. Like, if you got a mortgage, if you got vehicles, you need two salaries. Okay. Whereas I told them, I don't have no bonuses. I don't have no overtime. I don't have no raises. I have 1 income per month. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I learned, before I was getting every 2 weeks a paycheck. Now I'm only this. And you know what? You have to learn to adapt. And I have.
Yeah.
I watch my.
And
I think we were just before this episode, we were kind of mentioning, you know, the interest rates and the cost factors, the cost of living, what it was, you know, when we were in our early 20s and 30s and buying our homes, and you could afford really realistically want income at that point. And you're right, now it's a totally different element for them. I think also it's something that we're lacking in education, right? How to financially plan for your future, budget, cost factors, your debt ratios. I think as we progress in time, we're going to see more education happening for many of the 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
But you're right, like you are reducing your income, so you have to be smart, right, in your purchases. And some families downsize, right? They sell their home, buy smaller.
But the thing is, this is not how it was supposed to be. When you say living the dream, I can't wait for that day. This is not how it's supposed to be.
No.
And there's people, like I said, who said, well, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there, I'm going to do this. And you can't, because not because it's because of the situation we're in, where people are scared to go somewhere. People now, you see them in the grocery stores, they're looking at the prices. Before, you never looked at prices, you just bought. Now you're looking at in sales. Okay. And that's one of the things too about the retirement, was when you're saying, how am I going to eat? How am I going to sleep? What am I going to do? And you're constantly at least in my view anyways, because I look and my wife is really good with the groceries. She says, well, we have to go to this store, that store, this store, that store, just for sales. I never did that before. Never.
Yeah.
Never.
Well, it's
now
expensive.
Yeah.
Everything's expensive.
It is.
Well, and then I'm sure Lisette hears it often in her line of industry, where individuals, they retire and then they're dead in a year, right? They waited too long, or they had never had the opportunity to enjoy retirement. And that's also very frustrating, because you want to be able to be healthy enough to enjoy retirement also.
Right. And with the money and funds that you have, you want to make sure that you can enjoy those, like you just said. There's some people that I've spoken to in the last little while, even before this broadcast here. I said, when are you going to retire? Oh, I'm going to wait another year. I said, you said that 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, people are saying, are they scared? Are they scared? Maybe they just, or if they retire, they don't know what to do with themselves. I don't know. I don't have the answers for that. But all I know is,
I think financially is a very scary aspect, right? Because the price of everything is going up, and then you're going from a larger paycheck to a fixed income, like you said. And I think that is scaring. And think about it, there's a lot of people out there that are at the retirement stage, but their homes aren't paid for whatever reason, right? And can you retire if you still have a mortgage? Is that affordable?
Yeah.
Right.
Or even a car payment.
Yeah,
we were just talking about that. A brand new car today, I think, is 8%.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and a lot of people, yes, they are homeowners, but they've refinanced their homes.
Put their kids through school.
To help their kids
for whatever
buy
reasons, right?
So the equity in their house has shrunk. So it is scary, and that's why I kind of, that thing about how do you be optimistic in a negative world, because you're constantly bombarded by negativity, and literally there's times where I'm just frozen in position, and I think, okay, but I got to keep going forward, because what's the alternative, right? I have to keep going, and I can't be angry 24/7. I choose to be positive, but it's hard to do that. And in retirement, if you don't have something to do, to get out of bed every day, to give yourself some kind of purpose, whether that's gardening or volunteering or what is it, you need a purpose. You need to still be participating.
Well, the one thing is, you can only wash the cupboards out so many times, and then that's it. You can only paint the walls so many times. Okay. So you have to decide on what to do with your life. And for me, like I said, as long as I have a plan, and which I do, and I follow it, and some days I just don't feel like doing anything. And it's a good feeling where I have no commitments. That's the good thing about it, where I don't have to do anything today, and I'm not going to do anything today. I'm just going to sit and read and do whatever I feel. Or I don't feel like, if I want to stay in bed longer, I'll stay in bed longer. It doesn't matter.
Gary, I have to ask, on this adventure that you've had, and in this world of retirement, as you've kind of journeyed over, have you come across any groups or organizations that actually maybe provide some tools for retirement, not the financial piece, not the financial planners, but just, here's some resources, here's some great support programs, or here's how to start the conversation towards retirement without not just the financial, just like you say, the whole process.
Well, as we speak, I'm actually getting involved with the Canadian Mental Health Association of Canada and Ontario. And I propose some things to them and to talk about that, because if you have nobody to talk to, okay, and you're just going into this thing and you figure you have enough money, well, what happens in 10 years from now when your money's getting low? What do? Go back to work? Okay, and by that time you're maybe 70 years old. So
who's going to hire you?
That's right. There's another thing. Who's going to hire people? There's a lot of people, Joy, that they'll take on a person with experience because of the years. But there's some people who say, oh, he's too old. I'm not hiring him.
Ageism, okay? Right?
Yeah.
So you're in your own little group here. Okay. And this is something for me. I'm starting a new group and I'm involved in this. I'm a retiree, and I'm not embarrassed to say that when I go uptown or to stores. What are you? I'm a retiree.
Well, you should be proud, right? You work your whole life to get to this point, this milestone in your world to be able to be retired. And I think, but I also recognize where there's many of my peers that we all kind of exited around the same time frame, figured, okay, and I'd say 50-60% of us all went back. Just it wasn't a good fit. So it's interesting this see the dynamics of it all.
But like I said, and you also mentioned, you got to have a plan, and I do, and I'm following it, and I have no stress at all, none.
Send us a lesson plan.
Yeah.
But no, anyways, I help out as much as I can with my family. And, they have issues. They're still working. And, I have 2 boys, and I said, oh, you guys still working? Oh yeah, Dad, we got to work tomorrow. Oh, okay. And I don't. And then that's where you become alone. Like, it'd be nice if I had somebody who was my age and always went out hunting and fishing and everything else, but I don't. That's the problem.
As we're coming around to this last minute, do you have any words of wisdom for anyone who's thinking of retirement in 2023?
Yes, I do. First of all, if you think you don't have enough money, you're richer than you think, okay? Because as you get older, you spend less. The other thing is, unless you want to live that high lifestyle, but the other thing is, be prepared and have a plan. That's all I can tell you. Be prepared. Talk to some people. Talk to me. Talk to anybody who's experienced it. In other words, you can't talk to somebody who has depression if you don't have depression yourself, because you got to know what they're feeling. Okay. And that's why me going through this, the only person I had about retirement was my father, and my father's passed away now. And I said, how is it, Dad, being retired? And he told me, this is what you got to do. And again, I'll say it, if you're going to sit in your place and do nothing, you're not going to last very long. And mentally, okay? So my word of wisdom is this: go see your financial planner, have a plan, tell them exactly how you live, and don't change your life. Like, if you can live the same like I am, as if I was working, fine, it's great. But if I have to start getting rid of my vehicles and all this and all that, it's not worth it. It's not.
Thank you so much.
Make sure that you have enough money.
Well, thank you so much, Gary. That's wonderful worlds. And I'm sure that these, we could continue this conversation nonstop, but today's episode has come to an end, unfortunately. Thank you so much for joining us. We're definitely going to, if you have any information to share with us, we'd be more than happy to share. I think many of us are all looking towards retirement and what it will look like for us in the future. You definitely gave us some food for thought. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today with Aging in Action, and we look forward to spending some time with you again. Till next time.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Bye.